In 1964, the Iron Gate Dam was completed on the Klamath River, effectively cutting off 400 miles of critical spawning habitat for salmon and steelhead trout. Standing at 173 feet tall, the dam was constructed to generate hydroelectricity and stabilize downstream river flow. Over time, the dams trapped heat, causing toxic algae blooms and sediment buildup that depleted oxygen levels and devastated aquatic life. As a result, fish that had been part of the Klamath ecosystem for millennia were listed as endangered in the 1980s. In just a few short decades, the West Coast's third largest salmon-producing river was transformed beyond recognition. However, 60 years later, the removal of this dam was completed in August 2024. It was the largest dam removal project in history. The 400 miles of critical spawning habitat was finally reconnected, and people eagerly waited to see if the salmon would return. And they did. The day after the last barrier was removed, fish were monitored passing by where the Iron Gate once stood. In the months that followed, thousands of salmon swam past this historic site, reaching parts of the Klamath they had not been in over 100 years. But getting here was not simple. The removal of these dams required years of navigating regulatory bodies at the state and federal level. In California, one of the regulatory frameworks that makes this possible is the California Environmental Quality Act, better known as CEQA. Since 1970, this law has required that state and local agencies assess the environmental impacts of projects that they carry out or approve. It ensures that environmental impacts are identified and that they are accounted for. For projects like the Klamath Dam removal, this means extensive studies, environmental impact reports, and public comment periods that give communities a real voice in the process. It means that Californians know and have a say in what is happening to their local ecosystems, which is what I came to focus on these past 6 months. For my capstone, I partnered with California Trout, a nonprofit committed to protecting the state's iconic watersheds and landscapes for both fish and people. The organization is comprised of 7 regions across the state, each with unique priorities. From working near heavily developed watersheds in the South Coast to collaborating with farmers in the Central Valley, the breadth of CalTrout's work is truly remarkable. Across all of this, CEQA plays a critical role, giving California trout and the public a way to stay informed about projects that could affect the rivers and species they work to protect, and allows them to have a say in this process. CEQA was designed to create transparency, and it does. On any given day, there can be over 100 new project listings posted to the CEQA portal. These can range from large infrastructure projects, housing developments, road expansions, and commercial development in potentially sensitive habitats. Although not all, some projects found on CEQA could cause real ecological harm. The volume of daily listings is a testament to California's commitment to environmental review. But for organizations trying to track what is happening across the state, it can become a barrier to participation, and projects that matter can fly under the radar. In recognizing this challenge, I was left with one question. How do we make CEQA participation more accessible and comprehensive for the public and for organizations like California Trout? To address this gap, I created 3 deliverables with the goal of making CEQA more accessible and actionable for California trout, agencies, and the general public. First, I built 7 regional databases, each split by county, pulling information daily from the CEQA portal. These contain information such as project descriptions, environmental impact summaries, and relevant public comment periods, giving California trout a concise, up-to-date picture of what is happening across each of these regions. With the data collected, I built an interactive statewide GIS map. This served as a visual tool that layers CalTrout's regional program information alongside relevant active CEQA listings. With this, staff can see what projects are happening, where they are occurring, and the proximity to CalTrout projects and priority watersheds. And finally, for the public-facing materials, I created a living story map and 2 written pieces through California trout. These were designed to explain what CEQA is, why it matters, and how to get involved. Today, I will walk you through the GIS map and the story map. From the data collected regionally, I created an interactive map utilizing GIS. This contained California trout's regional boundaries, their project locations, and relevant active CEQA listings across the state. On the map, each region is separated by color-coded boundaries. California trout's own projects are marked with a blue fish icon, and CEQA projects appear as color-coded circles representing their priority. Yellow being medium, red being high priority for potentially negative projects, and green being high priority for potentially positive projects. Projects like the Elk River Estuary Restoration in Humboldt County are a perfect example of why this tool matters. 857 acres with direct impacts to coho and Chinook salmon, along with steelhead trout. When you click on this, the full CEQA listing pulls up. Every detail from the portal, visualized and accessible in one place. This particular project is happening right where California trout works on the North Coast, the Elk River, where their focus is on habitat restoration and water quality. Pictured here is that very location. The Elk River is a beautiful area where waterways reach the sea and where coho salmon and steelhead trout return to spawn. This is the site of the CEQA-listed restoration project we just saw on the map. It's work that has real ecological significance for this watershed and is complementary to California trout's efforts here. A framework like this ensures that organizations and agencies have a complete picture of what is happening across California waterways. It gives them the chance to use their voice when needed, whether that means offering support or raising concerns. The public-facing piece of this framework is a story map titled "Where the Water Runs Wild." It tells the story of CalTrout's 7 regions and the dynamic conservation work happening across these watersheds. It also provides background on CEQA, what it is, why it exists, and why it matters, and walks the public through how they can get involved in the environmental review process. More specifically, this involved explaining what a public comment period is and how anyone can meaningfully participate in this process. A public comment is a formal response submitted in writing, online, or in person during a CEQA review period. It is an opportunity to weigh in on a project before a decision is final, making them incredibly important. This material walks you through how to submit one that is truly meaningful and impactful. For example, the story map explains how a strong public comment does not need to be lengthy or technical. It should be specific, referencing the project by name, identifying the potential impact you are concerned about, explaining why it matters to you personally, and ending with a clear ask. Organizational engagement, public comments, and tools like these are not small things. Our participation has the power to shape outcomes. It ensures that restoration projects get the support they need, that harmful impacts are identified early, and that the communities and ecosystems who depend on these environments have a voice in the process. This capstone project was built to close that gap with the goal of making CEQA more navigable for organizations like California Trout and more accessible for the public. At a time when environmental decisions have felt increasingly out of our control, our participation matters more than ever. While monitoring CEQA can be a task, this law is a testament to California's commitment to protecting the state's beautiful environments. This law is in place to ensure that nature continues to coexist amongst the communities and industries of California. And while this process can be improved, the goal of accessibility and transparency it was built on is worth protecting. The Iron Gate Dam was completed in 1964, just 6 years before CEQA was signed into law. Because we now have laws like this, we can work to prevent the kind of habitat loss that occurred on the Klamath and can look at these recent dam removals as an example of CEQA's modern success. Margaret Mead once said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." Our voices are a powerful thing, and when we use them together, meaningful change follows. A very special thank you to my Capstone Advisory Committee, Nathan Yanchef, Ari Kornman, and Beverly Schornhorst, all of which have shared their time, expertise, and insight throughout this project. And to many others who have supported me throughout this past year, thank you. This work would not have been possible without you. That's also the QR code for my story map.
Hi, Tess.
Hi, Kate.
Thanks for a great presentation. I have a question about what methodology you used in your determination of what would be a potentially beneficial or a potentially negatively impacting project, understanding that they're updated daily and there are tons of projects. Did you do a word search or keywords, or how did you think about differentiating those?
Yeah, thank you. That's a really great question. So as I mentioned, each region has different priorities. So for example, something on the South Coast might involve roadways that could put culverts in that create fish barrier passage, and something with potentially positive impact would be removing barriers like that or restoration projects in rivers. Whereas maybe in the Central Valley, it's water diversions for agriculture. So that kind of involved reading through project descriptions one by one and sometimes skimming through those very lengthy environmental impact reports.
What is GIS?
That's a great question. So GIS is it's kind of a mapping tool for geospatial analysis, but that's a great question. That was what was used to make that map. Geographical Informational Systems is the acronym.
I've got a question. You talked a lot about the importance of public participation in CEQA. Have you personally engaged in this process yourself?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I actually have. So I got the chance to give public comment at the City of San Diego's Climate Action Plan meeting, advocating for some nature-based solutions such as wetland restoration for carbon sequestration, coastal protection, and I also had the chance to attend California Ocean Day, advocating for things like the Coastal Act, and I got the chance to attend the Western Division of American Fisheries Science meeting in Oregon this year, learning a lot about different aquatic system policy, even wildfire impact on trout and salmon. Thank you to the Julia Brown Fund.